Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us for the BPM Change Management PRR Review Monthly Meeting. My name is Hannah Pearson, representing the California ISO, and I will be facilitating today's web conference. Next slide, please. As a reminder, today's call is being recorded. These recordings are for informational and convenience purposes only, and any related transcripts should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. And as a reminder, these monthly calls are structured to simulate an honest dialogue and engage different perspectives. And while we welcome comments and questions, please remember to keep comments professional and respectful. Next slide. We will be taking questions throughout the call today. So if you're connected to audio through the WebEx platform, please open the participants panel and use the raise hand icon located on the center of the WebEx screen to enter the question queue. If you're not logged into the WebEx and dialed in by the phone only, please dial *3 to enter the queue. Please introduce yourself before asking your question, and if you need technical assistance during the call, please send a chat message to the event producer. Next slide. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the proposed revision requests that are in the initial or recommendation stage of the process. We will be discussing 16 PRRs today. 12 are in the initial stage and four are in the recommendation stage. 6 PRRs were submitted by stakeholders and 10 were submitted by the ISO. Next slide. The purpose of BPMs is to set forth business practices that implement the ISO tariff. The ISO conducts the yearly policy initiative roadmap process to consider and rank initiatives. Policy changes submitted through the PRR process will be referred to the Policy Initiative Roadmap process. Each subject area in a BPM is based on enabling language in ISO tariff. The PRR process cannot be used to introduce changes that are not supported by existing tariff authority. Next slide. And the first BPM we're covering is BPM Change Management PRR 1640. New PRR status, additional and general PRR updates, and it is in the initial stage. And Rochelle will be covering this slide, so I'll pass it off to her.
All right, thanks, Hannah. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So PRR 1640 is an addition of a new PRR status and some other updates, and I'll go over what those updates are. And we've just kind of generally updated the BPM Change Management BPM. So the reason for this revision is, number one, we wanted to add a new PRR status that's called Pending Project Implementation. That status essentially allows submitters to submit PRRs earlier than 2 months, and while a project is being worked on and placed into implementation, that status will essentially be on hold until that second month, which is a month before implementation. We also have updated the impact analysis template to just provide a little bit more clear information on what the impact of that PRR will be. We've added a section to the BPM Change Management BPM to define each of those PRR statuses for stakeholders, so you understand what those statuses mean. And then I've just made some general updates to bring that BPM current. So this would be effective at the end of the PRR cycle. We haven't received any comments as of yet. That commenting period expired on the 15th, though. And some important notes I want to note about this change. The BPM Change Management BPM is unique in the fact that it requires public board approval for those changes. So that's expected to occur in December following a completion of this full PRR approval process. So we're going to assume that this PRR will go through this month and next month, and then we will take those changes to the board for finalization. I'm also aware that this change may mean some external training and internal training are needed. That is tentatively scheduled for January after board approval, so that I can review with the public that new PRR status, why it would get used, and the updates to that impact analysis. So there will be some additional readiness activities outside of this PRR process here. Any questions about this PRR?
You have a hand raised from Susan.
Hi, Susan, what's your question?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, when you say pending project implementation, what is the project that you were talking about here?
Yeah, great question. It can be anything that's labeled as a project or a release. So essentially, let's say that a PRR is submitted as a result of an initiative or a project or release. We call it kind of all three of those same things. But instead of having to wait, if we know what the changes are going to be to those BPMs as a result of a project, an example of this is like RSCE is one that went in last year. Then instead of having to wait for that 2-month process and entering that PRR at the end of that project phase, we could technically submit the changes earlier to give you guys a longer period of time to review them, and that PRR will sit in that hold status until that project implementation date.
Okay, so for example, the I 5.0, if there's some BPM changes that come out of that, that would be something that could be submitted. I guess I'm not understanding what, if the initiative itself isn't going to be implemented till later, this would be things that would go into effect when the initiative goes into effect. Is that what I'm understanding?
That is correct. You got it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the clarification. Just to let everybody know too, I know we had submitted the 6 PRRs, and it looks like 4 of them are on hold and 2 of them have no ISO comment. So I will be actually coming back several times just to give everyone a heads up about asking about those. And so in case anybody needs to get ready for that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional questions about PRR 1640? And again, just a reminder, I want to go through the whole PRR process for this change, but we will be conducting additional training in January on what the status is, when it would get used, and that new impact analysis template.
I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
I have a question. It's Michael Martin. I'm with the ISO. Rochelle, so I wanted to question or comment, really. I think this is a great feature, and one example that I think we can use this for is EDAM and DAME changes that are upcoming. It's a large project, and putting the BPM out earlier publicly, is of value. I guess one question or clarification, or just a note, if we put out a BPM several months in advance, it's still in draft form. It means we can still change it. I guess that's a question, and my assumption is, of course, yes.
Yeah, that's correct, Michael. So essentially this status would occur between the first month and the second month, right? So right now we have that 2-month process and they go back to back. So what would happen is, and again, it's just an option for a PRR if it's in this stage where we can submit it earlier, then it would go through that first months of comments, sit in that pending stage, and then we could edit it as it moves into that second month for review and approval.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification. Again, I think it's a great option. So thank you for you and your team.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands raised. I think we can move on to the next PRR. Thank you. So the next BPM will be compliance monitoring, PRR 1649, request for additional data. It is in the initial stage, and Priyanka will be covering the next slide.
Thanks, Hannah. Hi, this is Priyanka from California ISO. We have submitted the PRR 1649 for the compliance and monitoring BPM for requesting the additional data for the AS audits and AS testing. This was part of the AS focus group discussions. And we added additional clarity for the tariff section 8.4. And it's the ability for CAISO to request additional evidence on AS certification and auditing. We have not received any initial comments, and the comment period has expired on October 15th of 2025. And the next step is for the recommendations.
Thank you. We do have a hand raised from John.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so SE did file comments. I'm not sure what you mean by there wasn't any comments.
Hannah, did we receive any comments? I haven't seen anything.
I'm not sure, but I can look into that for you.
Okay. John, we will look into the comment and we will respond back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
It's Michael here. I think the comment SCE put in was on 1641, which is similarly worded. I'm not sure if it's a duplicate, but Priyanka is going to get to that one here soon.
Oh, great. Maybe we'll have more clarification. If we want to move, I think we can move on. I don't see any other hands raised. Perfect, thank you. The next BPM will be credit management and market clearing, PRR 1637. Various revisions related to phase 1 of billing, payment, and credit enhancements as approved by FERC on January 28, 25. It is in the recommendation stage, and Christina will be covering the next slide.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Hannah. Good afternoon, everyone. As Hannah mentioned, this is PR 1637 with various revisions related to phase 1 of the billing, payment, and credit enhancements, primarily around the minimum participation capitalization requirements, eliminating that $100,000 amount if an entity was posting cash or letter of credit. There were no comments in the recommendation phase, excuse me, and the comment period expired on the 15th of this month, and the next step will be to post our final decision. Are there any questions in regards to PRR 1637? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands on my side. Hannah, are you seeing any hands up or questions on your end?
No, I'm not seeing any either.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next slide. Okay, perfect. The next BPM will be Energy and Balance Market, EIM, PRR 1639. Remove sunset of AET and add provision for RC action. And it is in the initial stage, and Michael will be covering this slide.
Okay, it's Mike Martin in operations. This is PRR 1639, removal of the sunset of the AET. AET is the Automated Energy Transfer process we put in a couple of years ago. And when we put it in, we put a sunset date of December 31, 2025. So we are updating per the tariff that we're going to keep this process. This is a process that should you opt in and you fail the RSC, in today's world without opting in, your ETSRs will be limited. If you opt in, your ETSR will not be limited, but you'll be subject to a $1,000 megawatt surcharge. So this system is optional, voluntary, and several BAs use it. We also added a process that should you fail and get that surcharge due to an RC action, let's say they're asking for unscheduled flow mitigation, you can dispute that or put in a request to reverse the surcharges. So we didn't get any comments, and the period expired on October 15th. Next step is the recommendation. Any questions?
Thanks, Michael. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Okay, I think we can move on to the next. Thank you. The next BPM will be generator interconnection and deliverability allocation procedures. There are quite a few PRRs here, so some in the recommendation and some in the initial stage. So I'll let the BPM coordinators go through those, and I will be handing this off to Matthew and Dawn.
Great. So I will be speaking to the first PRR, then we will move on to Dawn for the next two, and then I'll come back in for the last two. So PRR 1636 was the emergency PRR that we submitted to clarify the procedure for postings for standalone network upgrades. We did receive comments back on September 10th. We updated the BPM language to reflect most of those comments. There were a couple that we didn't proceed forward with in updating the tariff language, but by and large, we accepted all the comments. So the first one that we didn't accept was Susan proposed that we add in a note saying that notices will be sent out a minimum of 60 days before the postings due. So Susan, the reason I didn't move forward with that comment is I think it introduced a bit of rigidity in the event that we have a kind of pre-cluster 14 GIA that we're negotiating for, kind of older legacy network upgrades that are being discussed during GIA negotiations. And then as we discussed on our last BPM meeting, there was the item on reimbursement for shared amounts advanced for shared network upgrade projects, shared network upgrade payments for projects that withdraw that you subsequently submitted the PRR for. So I'll pause there. See, Susan, if you have any questions.
Yep, Susan Schneider, Phoenix Consulting. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Susan.
Okay, so I did not actually understand your explanations, but so there were a couple of things in there. First of all, the reason for the notice suggestion was to make sure that the customer has enough time before the posting is due to get the security together. So if you don't like the 60 days or whatever we had proposed, if you have another option or an alternative, that would be helpful. And then I guess I wasn't really sure. Well, anyway, the rest of it was mainly clarification. I understand there was some language you were trying to negotiate or doing something with the PTOs, because even though the tariff clearly says that if an upgrade is paid for, then people can look to get a refund later if someone else uses it, and it is straight out of the tariff language. Somehow there was some difficulty with PTOs understanding that or wanting to say that. So I guess I'm not really sure I understand the explanations. Maybe you can provide some clarification on the things you did not include.
Sure. So I should have started off with everything was accepted except for those two items. So the other clarification comments and capitalizing ENP throughout. So
yeah, those are the minor ones.
Yeah, the minor ones. So the 60-day notice, so the thought process there, Susan, was we have for projects that are whose negotiations are essentially greenfield. We haven't tendered an agreement. We have language that puts them on a timeline in terms of the posting and how soon the agreement must be tendered in advance of the posting. So to introduce, the notice has to be, your proposed edit where we're saying that the notice must be sent 60 days before the due date. It would really only apply in instances where we're looking at, pre-cluster 14 projects where a shared network upgrade has been triggered, and some of the pre-cluster 14 projects that for some reason, have not entered into a GIA thus far, are officially on the clock, even though they would have been anyways. You know, they would potentially be the ones who are benefiting from having that clarification of 60 days prior. But our thought process was those projects should be in the middle of GIA negotiations to begin with.
I'm sorry, why would
Which
it only
could
apply to projects that were before cluster 14? I'm not understanding the premise there.
Yeah, I guess there could be other situations where projects were parked behind a shared network upgrade, so they didn't get notices this last go around. But kind of the comprehensive list of all shared network upgrades that are known were reflected in this first wave of the shared network upgrade posting process that we went through with the PTOs.
Well, okay. So is it, I guess, are you saying that everyone who ever needs to get a notice has already gotten one because they have a GIA or something? I'm not, again, I'm really trying to understand what your explanation is.
Yeah, that would be a pretty succinct way to say it.
And this is never going to happen again in the future, where somebody might not have a GIA?
If it happened in the future, we would have, there would be two scenarios. One, it could be projects that were parked behind shared NUs, where all projects were parked, come out of parking. But in that event, I think they would fall into the greenfield category, right? Where they would have to have 120 days before it's due. They would have to get tendered a GIA at least 120 days before the posting's due. And then the other scenario would be if we have a future cluster, right? But the future cluster would be under Appendix KK, which would be the RIS BPM.
And that has no shared network upgrade provision?
Not currently.
It doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, but anyways, the edit wouldn't apply to the GitApp BPM.
Okay, I'm not
GitApp
sure I
BPM
understand the explanation, but we'll go back and look and see what you've done.
Sure.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but the GitApp BPM applies to Appendix DD.
Yeah, it does.
Only, and everything that's being done under, cluster 15 and later will be under the RIS, which would be a separate BPM.
Okay, so you're saying that everyone who is going to get any kind of notice about this has already received it, and therefore you don't need to have this provision.
By and large, yes, there could be some strange occurrences in a reassessment, but it does, the rigidity provided by the clarification, your proposed clarification, I think doesn't account, or it's not it wouldn't be the best approach to any strange situations we may have, especially considering that we do have that 120-day timeline for projects that aren't in agreement to begin with, that don't have an E&P or don't have a GIA, where if they came out of parking, they would have 120 days. But anyway, sorry, that wasn't the most succinct, clear way to discuss it.
All right. Well, we'll go back and take a look and see what you did, but yeah, I'm still a little unclear. But the other
Sure.
part I think was extremely important to clarify how the security release would work, and clarifying the provisions if you pay for the full upgrade instead of and reduce your security, and how that would work. The way I understood this last time we had a discussion about it was that there was some discomfort from the PTOs on that particular thing. We didn't really understand why, and the tariff does say what it says. So we don't really, I don't understand. And so I assume that sounded like that was a little stuck last time. Is it still stuck? Are you having trouble with the PTOs on that language?
We are coordinating directly with them. We have a call set up for next week with all the PTOs to benchmark with one another. So we are coordinating. It's in flight.
Might we be able to include that language in the final recommendation, the final decision? Or is that we're going to have to keep trying again in some other PRR and do it separately? Or where do you think this is going on that one?
Yeah,
it's pretty important clarification for us.
I think a separate PRR would be where we would do any potential clarification.
Okay, so is that one going to get stuck also, or what, are you making any progress there?
Like I've said, we are coordinating with the PTOs. We've had individual meetings with each of the PTOs, and now we're having kind of a group meeting. So
okay, when is the final decision coming out? Or I mean, we can submit something tomorrow if we need to, but when is the final decision coming out on that one?
So
I can answer that.
I believe it is final. Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, so Susan, since this was submitted as an emergency PRR, those changes that the ISO proposed went into effect immediately. And so the latest draft BPM that I posted in the PRR is also the latest version of the GitApp BPM that's posted in the BPM library.
Well, okay, I understand that. But my question was, it says here steps have final decision. So I assume is perhaps this is still under discussion. I can't quite tell from what we've been talking about if it's still in play or not in play. But if there's still going to be a meeting to talk about it next week, might there be, some as part of this, I understand this is an emergency BPM and it's in effect, but the reason to have this part of the process is so that there could be modifications to it and review after the fact. So my question is, when is that after the fact review going to be finished? Is it never not going to proceed, or is there a meeting next week and maybe something might come out of it? I guess I'm just trying to understand where we are at this point. So I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want to understand what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, so let me make it more clear. So after the initial comments were submitted, the ISO submitted its reply comments, and then that was the recommendation stage. And so what we expect from stakeholders is that they will look at that while it's in the recommendation stage and make comments on it by October 15th. And then we can have, we can work with you prior to the meeting today to try to resolve any outstanding issues based on any reply comments that we get in the recommendation stage. So at this point that you're bringing it all up now, generally the final decision occurs on the Friday after the meeting occurs. So it would be wrapped up by this Friday, but it sounds as if you might need more time to review.
No, we're the ones who put in comments in the first place. We don't need any more time to review. We need to know when you're done with your review. It sounds like there's a call next week to discuss this. So regardless of the Friday day, we've already put in our comments, and they were not, at least not, they weren't not accepted, but they weren't not accepted. They were simply not in the next, that next version. And so we were told that there were still conversations going on. And we've just been told again that there are still conversations going on, and there's some meeting next week. So is it still in play or not? And if your answer is no, it's not still in play, even though it says next step final decision, that final decision is already made, that would be something to know. But I'm just trying to get clear. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Understood. Okay, so this PRR 1636 is going to wrap up on Friday. Any additional changes that need to be made to the language based on any subsequent conversations with PTOs or stakeholders will be in a separate PRR.
So is the
that will go
KISO
through
going
the change management process?
Okay, well, I'm not going to wait for you guys. We'll put in a separate one. I just feel like if you're still having conversations, it's not final. But if it is final, we're just going to move ahead and we'll put in another PRR on the same topic. I'm hoping it will not fall into the same void that this one did, even though we are quoting directly from the tariff, and I do not understand the intransigence here. But we will go move ahead. My understanding then is it's the rest of the language will not be accepted, and we'll move ahead with another one. I would appreciate a little bit of an explanation as to why, when we're quoting directly from the tariff, this language is not acceptable. So I don't really feel like we've gotten satisfaction on that point. But we will push it again in another one and see how that goes. All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Should we move on to the next PRR?
Yep, that's what I'm ready to do. Okay, so the next PRR is PRR 1638. It is the subscriber participating transmission owner updates. The reason for the revision was addition of language to section 16.9.2.3b to reflect the additions to CAISO Tariff Appendix DD section 8.9.1, allowing for maximum import capability allocations to generating facilities interconnected to subscriber participating transmission owner facilities. It also added a new section 4.5.3 to describe applicable interconnection process for generating facilities seeking interconnection with subscriber PTO transmission facilities. There were no recommendation comments received before the period expired October 15th of 2025, and the next step is the final decision. Any questions on that one? Okay, great. The next PRR is 1642, intra-cluster prioritization deliverability clarification. It was submitted by Susan Schneider of Phoenix Consulting. The reason for that was to clarify that projects receiving ICP headroom allocations and accelerating their CODs accordingly can provide resource adequacy under specific circumstances, even though all of their assigned network upgrades are not yet complete. The CAISO rules usually require that all precursor and assigned network upgrades be complete before a project with a TPD allocation receives its applicable FCDS or PCDS designation. However, projects accelerating their CODs pursuant to an ICP headroom allocation are allowed to interconnect and operate before the ICP-related RNU is in service. This PRR is needed to clarify that such projects can receive FCDS or PCDS as applicable once the non-ICP upgrades are in service. It would undermine the effectiveness of the ICP process if these projects had to wait to fully provide RA until the ICP-related RNU is in service. And the expectation is that it would be effective at the end of the PRR process. We did receive a comment from Rayanne Quadro in support of this PRR. The comment period expired October 15th, and we put this PRR on hold just to give the ISO an opportunity to develop language that we believe would better accomplish the purpose of the PRR, and also something that fits within what the ISO is able to do. We are getting close to having some type of resolution on that. So as soon as we have something, we will take this PRR off of hold and post the ISO's proposal in the change management PRR. Any questions?
Yeah, we do have a hand raised from Susan.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so I apologize. I do understand the reason why this is on hold, as well as 1643, because the two are at least somewhat related, and we're looking for parallel language or some coordination between the two. So we understand that. So I guess my question, and I will have this question on a few others as well, is when you think we might be able to see what is going to come out of this, and is the next step a recommendation from the CAISO, or how is this going to work? And when might we see that?
The next step would be a recommendation from the ISO, and it will be posted when we have something to share. We are actively discussing it, as you know. We have had multiple conversations with you on this and multiple email exchanges, and we are getting close to having something, but I am not going to commit to a specific date or a time period during this call.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just keep an eye
I
out.
can say it won't be months. It'll
Well, that would
probably
be nice.
weeks. It could be days.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you so much. All right, thanks.
Okay, Matt, you're up.
All right, thank you, Don. And so Susan, kind of Don's comments on, the on hold status and the next steps will apply to the next two, but I can give you a summary. So why don't we go ahead and move on to PRR 1644. So PRR 1644 was submitted by Susan Schneider of Phoenix Consulting. And it is they were edits on standalone network upgrade sections to clarify. So background, cost, and timing risks assumed by an IC electing to self-build the standalone network upgrade are not clear in the existing language. So Susan proposed some clarifying language. And we did receive comments from Gridwill Consulting, Rayanne Quadro, in support of some of Susan's clarifications in terms of how we should view delays that fall into a category of delays that a PTO would reasonably be expected to be faced with as well. So Susan, we are coordinating with the PTOs. I do appreciate the clarification edits that were provided. I think that they are good edits that make language clearer, but there are a couple policy issues that we are running to ground with our PTO counterparts. So I'll turn it over to you, or not turn it over, but I'll check in with you, Susan. Any comments on the status there?
Yeah, I guess I was a little surprised that this one is being held. I understand 1642 and 1643 because of the ties, the commonalities between them. But this one, I guess, this is, it has not only to do with timing delays, but also cost increases and some other things that, I think is very clear that at least some interconnection customers entered into a self-build arrangement, not fully understanding all of the risks associated with them. And so this is just, spelling that out. Some of them have their eyes open. Some, I think, didn't look beyond the ability to accelerate their CODs. So this is really important. I guess can you give us a feel for what is the problem, or what is the issue, or what are the concerns with this clarification?
Yeah, so the one item that we are running to ground is on page 162, kind of the carve out of any changes to the construction schedule that impact GIA milestones is one item that we're trying to benchmark with the PTOs. I think, the kind of the plain language that was used in the milestone schedule for the scope of work, where we talk about COD delays, we may edit. I don't know if we'll publish, they will not be considered PTO delays, even if the PTO might have encountered the same delays.
Is that not a true statement?
It is a true statement, but
it's really important, because I can't tell you how often I've heard that argument, and I'm sure you've heard it as well.
Right.
And so you need to let people know in advance that that argument will not fly. And that was our purpose, is to actually let the PTOs off the hook instead of saying, well, it's not a PTO delay. And it's very clear that the CAISO doesn't consider that a PTO delay, even though the PTO would have incurred those, potentially might have incurred those same delays. So this is just a clarification to the customer that they should understand this.
It is a valid statement. We just might do a little wordsmithing in terms of tone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I know you've heard this one before many times.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just,
so
yeah.
As long as you're not going to dilute the meaning of it, which is a really, really important thing to communicate to people.
I agree. It is a worthwhile clarification, and it was brought up in IPE 5.0.
Yep.
Yeah. So I do see the value, and I appreciate that your edits in this PRR, we're very clear in stating what we concluded in IPE 5.0. So I appreciate that. No firm timetable, but this one should be fairly quicker to wrap up.
Are we also talking a matter of days and not weeks and months on this one?
This one I would put into, just to be conservative, the weeks category rather than the months. It's kind of wrangling the appropriate folks on the PTO side as we're kind of getting into, kind of peak cluster 15.
Okay.
Timeline.
It would be good to have a response maybe by the next time we have this call.
Sure, I can commit to that.
Okay, and then I will ask you, please, not to dilute the meaning of it. Obviously, it's not the world. You can always, improve language or suggest edits or something, but please don't dilute the meaning, because that is a really important message to send people.
Understood, and I do agree. It's nice to have questions or the source that you could point to.
Okay.
For the community.
Right. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
All righty. So why don't we go ahead and move on to the last of the GetApp BPM PRRs, 1647. So this was clarifying that financial security posting requirements should exclude coverage for network upgrades that are picked up in the TPP. And we did receive a couple comments. So this one is on hold for working through a procedural issue. We would like to see amended study reports in general, but that would kind of memorialize the removal of the upgrade. But we are working with PTOs on how that would look, and if it's even something that we could fit in given resource constraints, to have kind of an interim report revision in advance of a reassessment. So as you know, Susan, typically this would be handled via the reassessment in terms of memorializing the removal of an upgrade and recalculating any MCR. However, the request is reasonable on your part. We are just kind of looking at different avenues. I will say, in general, where we have encountered this, we tried, with SCE projects in Cluster 14, we tried to, in absence of a report that removes the upgrade, find some sort of middle ground approach where we push the posting date for the shared network upgrade to be beyond when we expected a reassessment report. That way, we have time to actually remove the upgrade before the posting for the shared network upgrade is required. I do understand that conclusion may not have been the optimal one from the developer standpoint, but it was where we were able to land. So again, this one I would put in the category of weeks rather than days or months, but we are working on it with our PTO counterparts and our engineers, both on the CAISO and PTO side. Okay. Just quick
Susan does
comment,
have
Susan.
her hand raised.
Sure. Oh yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just a couple things. First of all, if you said it as a matter of course that the postings will be postponed until after the reassessment or the next study, that would be actually probably a reasonable compromise. But the and in fact, I will tell you that what we filed was a compromise because there were some people who said, well, wait a minute, under SCE you've got this payment schedule, and the payment schedule still includes the upgrades, and until the reassessment or whatever happens months later, you're still having to pay for that upgrade in your payments. But we actually understood that it would be an onerous process to have to go through and recalculate the whole payment schedule for each of these projects, and so we did not request that. So I mean, we were trying to be reasonable in the request. It's fairly obvious to look at an upgrade and then look at the TPP, the transmission plan, and go, yep, that's the upgrade, and just don't make the posting. Okay. So saying it's going to be removed in the reassessment is possibly, I mean, it would be best to just have it just removed it from the responsibility in before the reassessment. It's just where you've got this months between the transmission plan and then the reassessment results. It doesn't make sense to require the posting at all. So we're really mainly trying to mitigate that damage. It should already be just taken out of the cost responsibility as well. And if you can do that, that would really be the ideal way to handle it. But I wanted you to know, we could have, there were people who wanted us to ask for more, and we did not do that. So we did understand that that would be more onerous. So we were trying to pick the low hanging fruit here and see if you could just get rid of that. And then deal with the payment schedule thing after a reassessment comes.
Okay, so that is good to know that approach could be palatable for the developer community to just kind of memorialize that. And understood about the payment schedule being less than ideal in the recent round that we went through.
Anyway, if you can get it off of the cost responsibility, that would be the best thing. But as a compromise, we might be able to live with the other one. So I can take that back as well. But at least the worst thing is to make people have to post a lot of money, a third posting for an upgrade they're obviously not going to be responsible for. That was really what we were trying to avoid here. And so appreciate your efforts trying to deal with that on that Serrano upgrade. But that was not a practice. That was sort of it was good for you to stem the bleeding there at least, but it would be good to have some regular policy on this issue.
Understood.
Thanks.
Yep, we will be back with an update before our next BPM meeting. So
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
One thing I wanted to say about that one, a couple of the comments were that we had the wrong attachment posted for that PR. That's been fixed.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other hands raised.
All right. Yep, that wraps up our Get at BPM PRR section. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. We can go to the next slide. Perfect. The next BPM will be Generator Management, PRR 1643, Limited Operations Study Deliverability Clarification, and PRR 1645, Commercial Viability Criteria PPA Demonstration, and they are both in the initial stage, and Jill will be covering these slides.
Thanks, Hannah. Jill Jordan, California ISO. PRR 1643 was submitted by Susan Schneider, Phoenix Consulting, and the purpose of the revision is to clarify the project's deliverability status after it goes through the LOS if it chooses to come online early as a result of a limited operations study. And we did receive a comment from Rayanne Quadro in support of this PRR in the comment period that expired October 15th. We're putting this one on hold, similar to PRR 1642, so that we can have a little bit more time to craft language that will best capture what the purpose of the PRR. And the timing of it, Susan, is going to be similar to that for PRR 1642. We're working with the Interconnection Resources team on language for both of those PRRs. So we're hoping to have a recommendation fairly soon. Are there any questions about this PRR?
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, wonderful. We can move on to the next one. PRR 1645, the reason for this, this one was also submitted by Susan at Phoenix Consulting. And the purpose of the PRR is to provide clarifying language around the power purchase agreement requirements for the annual demonstration for commercial viability criteria. And the purpose is to clarify that the PPA provided for the annual demonstration does not need to be the same PPA that was initially provided. And we have worked with Susan at Phoenix Consulting to adjust the language a little bit, and we were able to come to a consensus. We're planning on including the updated language with our recommendation. We did get an initial comment from Rayanne Quadro supporting this PRR as well. So our next step is to post the recommendation with that updated language. Are there any questions or comments on this PRR?
Yes, Susan has her hand up.
Yeah, super quick. Just wondering, would the recommendation be posted fairly soon?
Yes. Yeah, I'm hoping to get it posted by early next week at the latest.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we can go to the next slide. So the next BPM will be market operations, PRR 1641, ability for CAISO to initiate verification from resource owner, and it is in the initial stage. And PRR 1650, new market automation to prevent market disruptions in RTD and STUC, and it is in the initial stage as well. And Priyanka and Michael will be covering these slides.
Hey everyone, before we move on, I do just want to point out that we are almost at time. We do have several PRRs left in the process. As a reminder, this is being recorded, so if you have to drop off, we understand. Please check for the recording on the website when it does get posted. At this time, we'll keep on moving if all of our presenters can stay on. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Hi, this is Priyanka Ramburi again. We have submitted PRR 1641 for the market operations BPM to add the ability for CAISO to initiate the verification for the AS certification as well as the AS test audits. The reason for this revision is for CAISO to have an ability to initiate the data request on how the resource owner is verifying or monitoring or testing their system and their related equipment for the AS services. We did receive a comment from John SCE. We are in a process of reviewing the comment internally, and we will provide the response soon. The initial comment period has expired on October 15th, and the next step is to post the recommendations.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Oh, John just raised his hand.
Hello. Yeah, just, I actually submitted the comments. This is John from SCE. So one thing, when you do provide clarification, I'm the language that was included is kind of vague. When basically the general comments is that CAISO has the ability to request data from resource owners. We just want to know a little bit more on what that data request is. So if you can provide more clarity on that, that would be definitely helpful, just so that we can communicate this to all of our resources and the PPAs that we have currently in place. So because when you talk about data requests and requesting how the resources owners are checking, monitoring, and testing, it could be a variety of different things, right? So more clarity on that is definitely needed. So those are just my
understood. Yeah. Thanks, John. Yes, we will provide a clarity on that PRR.
There's one other
Thank you.
thing I'm thinking about, but
Okay. No other hands raised. I think we can move on.
Okay, this is Michael Martin going on to PRR 1650, the new market automation to prevent market disruptions in RTD and stock. This is an enhancement that we've been working on for a little bit to capture and prevent a market disruption. There was a comment, Bonnie, I apologize, I missed seeing this. I apologize to Southern cities for not seeing this. Bonnie's comment, and if I can address here at a high level, but I will post an official response. The comment was, it would be most helpful to detail how the automated process will respond to each of the resource constraint examples. So really quickly, it doesn't matter the resource constraint. There's no difference in how it works. And at the highest level, the market in RTD, there's a scheduling run and a pricing run. And if a resource has a constraint that, telemetry, an outage, an exceptional dispatch that's going to cause the entire market run to fail, the system will pull that one resource out, and no matter which constraint it is, and give it its prior dispatch, just that one resource. The rest of the dispatch will go out as an optimized dispatch. So I will write that up, but I wanted to give you that high-level answer right now and maybe clarify that better in the BPM language. The rest is the same, October 15th, and without objection, we'll push into the recommendation comment. Any questions?
Yeah, Bonnie has her hand up.
Bonnie, you're unmuted.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. I follow that now. So it's basically I guess it would be the same response to the two examples that you would just extract that resource from the optimization, if I understand the explanation you gave.
Exactly. It says this one, the market traps for thousands of different situations, but you can't do everything. So in these unique situations where if somehow we got bad input and it's going to cause the whole market to fail, we'll pull it out, give it its prior dispatch, basically, do what you did last interval, and then what we found is the next interval, telemetry changes, the generator changes, and then things work out. So what we hope is this will reduce market disruptions. And by the way, as we mentioned in the BPM language, we'll collect and report on how often this occurs. Now we'll hide the actual resource name. This is through the market quality folks. So we'll capture and report. And you know, should you or should any participant want to get into investigate, hey, is it happening because of something, then we'll be happy to work with client relations and do that also.
And if you find that there's a resource that, I mean, I don't know whether this could occur or not, but I mean, could it occur that there's a resource that, you know, sort of persistently, or maybe not, I mean, obviously not, I would assume not constantly, but repeatedly, let's say, is having that effect on the optimization? Is there a way of trying to work with the resource to address the issue? Or is it just?
Yes. Yeah, let me jump in on this. When this occurs, the operator of the BA, and this could be any BA, could be the CAISO BA, which you are in, or any EIM BA, the BA operator will see the resource, the time period, the constraint, the megawatts, and could in real time even contact, you know, the SC, or should, I remember discussing this, should patterns like you're talking about occur? Absolutely, that would be, you know, that's why we have operators to recognize pattern recognition. So that I would expect.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks very much.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands raised. So I think we can move on to the next slide. Awesome. So the last BPM will be reliability requirements, PRR 1635, 2026 availability assessment hours, and it is in the recommendation stage, and PRR 1646, mixed fuel resources, SCDS, and QC clarification, and it is in the initial stage. I'll be handing this off to Melanie and Abdul.
Thanks, Anna. The first PRR is 1635, which is the 2026 availability assessment hours. We just added them to the reliability requirements BPM for 2026. Were there any questions for this PRR?
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Perfect. The next PRR is going to be 1646. This one was submitted by Susan. This is for mixed fuel resource, SCDS, and NQC clarification. This is to document the CAISO's current practice for determining deliverability status and NQC for mixed fuel resources, where both fuel types have been awarded SCDS TPD allocations, but POI constraints, LRA authority, accounting rules, and CAISO system limitations prevent them from both being listed as such on the NQC list. And the CAISO has implemented a procedure for managing the shown deliverability status and NQC calculations for mixed fuel resources, where both resources have been found to be fully deliverable, but POI constraints, LRA accounting rules, and CAISO system limitations prevent them from being listed as such on the NQC list. So this PRR was needed to document the CAISO's procedure, so it's transparent to interconnection customers for their consideration in making PPA and other commitments for the MFR resources. So we did get one initial comment, and it was just to support the PRR, and we also added additional revision to the first paragraph that's highlighted in yellow. But we also support this PRR. So the next step is to move to recommendation comment. Are there any questions for this PRR?
Yeah, we do have a hand raised from Susan.
Yeah, just a quick timing thing. I did not see any recommendation posted yet, so I'm assuming that will be fairly soon, or is that another, couple of weeks maybe, or what are we looking at? Because this is an item of widespread confusion. And actually, I didn't quite understand it
No
before I
worries,
had a
no
really
worries.
good dialogue with some KAISO folks recently. So this is, I think it's be good information to get out as soon as possible.
Yeah, we'll provide our recommendation by Friday, and then
okay.
it'll be processed. And I think market price will out on Tuesday. So this one will be posted by the end of the beginning of the week.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And thanks for your consideration here.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi everybody. This is Catalin, and thank you, Susan, for putting in words what we exchange emails about. I just want to let everybody know that I realized this morning that the section number is wrong. So the section number needs to be moved after we define deliverability and NQC. It's right now it's tagged with the QC, so we will move it to the appropriate number, section number. But the language, it has our input in the language, and I think it's good. It's good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands raised, so I think we can move to the next slide. Alrighty, so thank you everyone for staying on late. The next BPM PRR review monthly meeting will be on November 18th at 11 a.m. And then if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at bpm_cm@kaiso.com. So that concludes today's meeting. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you.